Imagine a 20-year-old named Alan, full of determination and courage. He is a bricklayer and does everything he can to find a job because his biggest concern is taking care of the person he loves most in the world, his mother, Dona Ana. She is facing a difficult battle with terminal cancer, and Alan wants to give her comfort and peace of mind in her final days. But it is not easy for him. Alan only has an elementary education and little work experience, which makes it even more difficult to get a job. He tries everything, does not give up, but the doors continue to be closed. Even so, he carries an incredible strength, driven by his love for his mother. It is the kind of story that makes us root for a happy ending, right? Let's see where this journey takes him. Alan went to the job center full of hope, believing that he would finally find an opportunity. But when he was answered, he heard something that broke his heart. Unfortunately, we do not have any vacancies for you. It was as if the world had become heavier, but he knew he could not give up. After all, he was fighting for something bigger, his mother, Dona Ana. Even though she was facing terminal cancer and constant pain, Dona Ana always tried to hide her suffering. She smiled at Alan and said encouraging words, even when she could barely stand. She wanted him to believe that everything would be okay, even though, deep down, she knew how difficult the situation was. But Alan was smart and attentive. He could see in his mother's eyes the pain she was trying to hide. This made him even more determined to be the strength of the family. He wanted to give her the comfort she deserved, but time seemed not to be on their side. 2 months passed, and Dona Ana, so strong and loving, sadly left. Alan, now alone in the world, felt the weight of the loss and the lack of financial support. It was as if the ground had disappeared from under his feet. But even in the midst of his sadness, something inside him kept telling him to keep going. He knew his mother would be proud of his perseverance. After Dona Ana left, Alan's life became even more complicated. He began to have trouble paying his rent, and the fear of being evicted and ending up living on the streets haunted him every day. With no one to help him, he needed to find a solution, and fast. Desperate to save some money, Alan got a job as a bricklayer. It was temporary hard work and paid little, but it was all he had at the moment. With calloused hands and a heavy heart, he kept at it, trying to save every penny. He knew that even working hard, what he earned would not be enough to cover the overdue rent. But then, on one of those workdays, something he never expected happened. In the middle of work, while he was still wearing his worn and dirty clothes, his cell phone rang. On the other end of the line, a polite and professional voice said something that made his heart race. An invitation for a job interview. And it wasn't just any interview. It was at a luxury hotel, one of the most prestigious in the region. Alan was surprised, almost in disbelief. How could someone with so little experience and so many difficulties be called to such a sophisticated place? He didn't even know how they had gotten his contact information, but that didn't matter. It was the chance he needed, and he knew he couldn't let it pass him by. Even though he was nervous and had doubts in his head, Alan decided he would do everything possible and impossible to seize this opportunity with all his might. With his heart full of anticipation, Alan headed to the interview at the hotel. He was so focused on the opportunity that he didn't even realize something important. He was still wearing the same old, dirty clothes he had worn when he worked as a bricklayer. When he got there, his mouth dropped open. It was a luxury hotel like the ones he had only seen in movies, with shiny chandeliers, impeccable floors, and very well-dressed people. He knew he wasn't up to the task, but he decided to go in anyway. As soon as he walked past the reception, the stares began. Employees whispered, customers looked at him with disdain, and some even laughed softly. Alan heard comments about his unkempt appearance and felt the weight of judgment. A huge security guard approached him and, without even asking why he was there, began to take him out. The young man, his voice trembling, explained, "I have a job interview here." The security guard laughed mockingly and replied, "I think you're in the wrong place, mate." But then something unexpected happened. A stylish, confident woman named Yasmin appeared in the middle of the commotion. She interrupted the security guard and firmly defended Alan. "You didn't even check if he really has an interview here. Give him a chance to explain. Before you act like that. Yasmin's intervention changed everything. The security guard, embarrassed, went to the reception to confirm what Alan was saying. Meanwhile, Yasmin introduced herself and began to talk to the young man. She listened to his story and was touched by his determination and courage. A short time later, the hotel manager, Camila, arrived and led Alan to a room for the interview. Although he was still nervous and insecure about being in such a sophisticated place, Alan answered all the questions honestly and directly. He told him about his difficulties, his experience as a bricklayer, and, above all, about his desire to learn and grow. When the interview ended, Camila smiled and gave him the news he never expected to hear. "Congratulations, you're hired." Alan was speechless. His sincerity and potential spoke louder than his clothes or his lack of experience. He had achieved something that seemed impossible. It was the beginning of a new phase in his life, and Alan was determined to show that he deserved this chance. Alan began his new journey at the hotel, and each day was like a new challenge. He was determined to prove that he deserved this opportunity. Even without much experience, he threw himself into the job, learning everything he could and giving his all. And the best part, he wasn't alone. Gustavo, the hotel owner, saw something special in Alan. He not only hired him, but decided to invest in the young man's future, offering incredible benefits such as professional training courses to help him grow. But despite these opportunities, Alan's life was still full of obstacles. With no money to rent a house and no family or friends to help him, he began sleeping in the hotel locker room. For 3 nights, he made do as best he could, trying not to attract attention. He thought, "This is it for now. I can get through this." However, his plan did not go unnoticed. Camila, the manager, ended up finding out and told Gustavo everything. When Alan was called to the office, he thought he was going to be fired. With tears in his eyes, he explained his situation, expecting the worst. But to his surprise, Gustavo not only understood, but decided to help. He gave Alan an advance on his salary and handed him the keys to one of the hotel rooms. "You're going to stay here until you're settled," Gustavo said. He also instructed the entire staff to treat Alan like a guest during the nights, while he would be an employee during working hours. To Alan, this seemed like a dream. He didn't know how to thank him, but he was sure of one thing: he would do everything to honor this new opportunity. With a heart full of gratitude and a desire to succeed, Alan began to write a new chapter in his life. In the beginning, Alan faced a major obstacle within the hotel: Sandro, Gustavo's son. Sandro was completely different from his father. He led a luxurious and carefree life, enjoying the perks that money could offer, and saw Alan as just another employee. To make matters worse, he seemed to enjoy making the young man's life difficult. Sandro did everything he could to test Alan. He gave orders that weren't even his responsibility, like cleaning extra bathrooms, carrying heavy groceries, and even mowing the lawn. But Alan, with his determination and patience, accepted everything with a smile on his face. He saw each task as an opportunity to learn and grow. Over time, something surprising happened. Sandro began to really notice Alan. The way he worked with dedication, without complaining, even in the most difficult situations. He realized that Alan was not there just for a job, but to build something bigger in life. This made Sandro reflect on his own attitudes. One day, after watching Alan complete yet another task that he had given him, Sandro muttered to himself, "Now I understand why my father admires him so much. I wish I had half that willpower." Little by little, Sandro's admiration for Alan grew, and his contempt turned into respect. Soon, the two began to talk more, and over time, an unexpected friendship was born. Alan not only gained a friend, but also a great ally within the hotel. And this change was good for both of them. Alan grew professionally, learning more and more, while Sandro, inspired by his new friend, began to rethink his stance and became more involved in the family business. What began as a relationship full of conflicts ended up becoming a lesson in learning and mutual respect, showing that strength of character can transform even the most difficult hearts. Alan's life was finally getting back on track when he received news that changed everything. One ordinary day, Gustavo, the hotel owner, asked to speak with him in private. Alan, curious and a little apprehensive, went to the office, not imagining what was coming. Sitting in his chair, Gustavo seemed different, more serious and introspective. "Alan, there's something you need to know about me, and about your mother." Those words made Alan's heart race. He didn't know what to expect. Gustavo began to tell his story. Many years ago, he and Dona Ana had been very close. "I loved your mother more than anything," Gustavo confessed, with a sparkle in his eyes that mixed longing and sadness. "She was the great love of my life, but things didn't turn out as he had expected. Dona Ana fell in love with another man and moved on, leaving Gustavo heartbroken. Despite that, he was never able to forget her." Gustavo revealed that when he found out about Dona Ana's illness, he made a point of helping with her treatment. Not out of obligation, but out of respect for the woman who had made such a big impact on his life. "She was so special, Alan, and I knew she would make you someone special too." Alan listened to everything in silence, trying to absorb the information. The question that had been running through his mind finally escaped. "So, are you my father?" Gustavo smiled sadly and shook his head. "No, Alan, I'm not your father. In fact, I'm sterile. I've never been able to have biological children. Sandro was adopted because I've always wanted to be a father," he continued, explaining why he had never revealed everything before. "I wanted you to have the chance to conquer the world with your own hands, with effort and hard work. I didn't want you to receive anything on a silver platter because of me. You deserve it all, Alan, and I'm very proud of who you're becoming." Gustavo's words touched Alan deeply. He realized that all the support opportunities and trust he received came from a place of love and respect, not just for him, but also for his mother's memory. Unable to contain his emotion, Alan stood up and hugged Gustavo. "Thank you for everything." It was a moment that changed their relationship forever. Alan not only gained a mentor and friend, but also the certainty that he was honoring his mother's memory with every step he took. He knew that, despite so many difficulties, he was on the right path. Alan continued his life at the hotel with the same dedication and determination that had brought him there. Despite now having Gustavo's trust and so many doors open to him, Alan refused any kind of privilege. He made a point of working hard like all the other employees. For him, every achievement had to be the result of his own effort, because that was how his mother had taught him. And that was what motivated him the most. Every task well done, every recognition, was like a message saying, "Mom, I'm doing this for you." He knew that, from somewhere, Dona Ana was watching and, without a doubt, feeling enormous pride in who he was becoming. More than success at work, Alan found something even greater, the happiness of honoring his mother's memory. He carried in his heart the certainty that he was following the right path, building a future that reflected the love and values she had passed on to him. And so, Alan continued writing his story, with his head held high and his heart full of gratitude. After all, everything he did was to keep alive the memory of the woman who was his greatest example of strength and love. Alan's story is one of those that touches the heart and makes us believe in the power of determination. He teaches us that even when everything seems against us, it is possible to overcome with courage, hard work, and a heart full of gratitude. Every challenge Alan faced was a lesson in never giving up, about how perseverance can transform even the most difficult situations into opportunities for growth. He showed that, with faith and effort, we can overcome obstacles and honor those we love. If this story also touched you, how about spreading this message? Like the video, leave your comment, and share it with your friends. Who knows, maybe someone who's going through a difficult time can find inspiration and strength in Alan's words. Let's share this life lesson with more people together.